In an era defined by constant motion, mounting expectations and digital noise, the search for inner peace has become more than a philosophical ideal. It is now a daily necessity. Whether navigating a demanding career, managing personal relationships, or simply keeping up with the endless stream of information, people often find themselves overwhelmed. Emotional stability, once viewed as a luxury or trait of the disciplined few, has become essential to maintaining both mental and physical well-being. Yet, amid the rush and noise, where can one turn for guidance? Buddhist philosophy offers a grounded, time-tested framework for those seeking to restore balance and serenity in the modern world. Unlike systems that focus solely on external achievements or abstract spiritualism, Buddhism teaches that transformation begins within. The principles introduced by Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, over 2,500 years ago remain profoundly relevant today, especially in their approach to mental clarity, emotional awareness, and compassionate living. These teachings do not require isolation in a monastery or withdrawal from daily life. Instead, they offer practical tools, accessible, adaptable, and deeply human. Equally significant is the cultivation of positive thinking, not in a naive or blindly optimistic way, but through a conscious effort to shift perspective. Buddhist teachings encourage individuals to observe the mind carefully, recognizing patterns that lead to suffering, such as attachment, aversion, and excessive desire. By redirecting energy away from these tendencies and toward compassion, gratitude, and acceptance, one gradually nurtures a more stable and joyful state of being. This pursuit of inner peace is not a passive endeavor. It involves daily intention, practice, and the willingness to look inward with honesty. The path is not linear, nor is it without obstacles. But as Buddhist philosophy suggests, challenges are not to be avoided. They are to be understood, embraced, and transcended. In doing so, each person has the potential to cultivate not only personal peace, but also contribute to a more compassionate world. The insights that follow are not abstract principles confined to temples or texts. They are living, breathing practices, meant to be engaged with in ordinary life, while drinking tea, talking to a friend, facing disappointment, or watching the sun rise. They are not promises of perfection, but invitations to begin a more grounded and harmonious relationship with ourselves and the world around us. And so, we begin by exploring the foundation of all internal transformation, the subtle yet profound practice that empowers us to pause, observe, and anchor ourselves in the now. Stay positive through mindfulness. And so, if peace begins within, what shapes the mind that seeks it? In Buddhist philosophy, the mind is not simply a vessel that receives the world. It is the very lens through which the world is created. Thoughts are not passive. They are active forces. They construct perception, color emotion, and drive behavior. For that reason, one of the most essential practices in Buddhist teaching is mindfulness. The continuous, deliberate awareness of one's thoughts, sensations, and experiences in the present moment. But mindfulness is not an abstract spiritual ideal. It is a practical method for grounding oneself in reality, for choosing clarity over chaos, and for cultivating a positive mindset in the face of adversity. Imagine the mind as a garden. Every thought is a seed. Some thoughts, like gratitude, patience, and empathy, are seeds of flourishing. Others, resentment, worry, self-doubt, sprout thorns and choke growth. Mindfulness is the act of recognizing what you are planting. Without awareness, weeds take over. With it, you create a mental space where intention governs reaction. This metaphor, simple as it may seem, captures the essence of mental awareness. The Buddha often spoke of the mind as the root of all action. What we think, we become. When applied consistently, mindfulness alters how we respond to stress. A negative thought no longer needs to spiral. A difficult conversation doesn't have to ruin the day. Rather than reacting on autopilot, a mindful person observes the internal reaction, pauses, and then chooses how to proceed. This self-regulation is at the heart of emotional balance. And in a world filled with triggers, news, deadlines, digital distractions, such control is nothing short of liberating. The practice of mindfulness also teaches detachment, not from life, but from the grip of judgment. It invites us to notice emotions without labeling them as good or bad. Sadness is not failure. Anger is not sin. These emotions arise, move through us, and eventually pass. What mindfulness cultivates is the space to witness them without being consumed. In that space, perspective is born. From that perspective, peace becomes possible. Of course, mindfulness is not achieved overnight. Like any discipline, it deepens with repetition. One might begin with 5 quiet minutes in the morning or by setting an intention before beginning a task. Over time, this gentle attention begins to color the entire day. You notice the way your shoulders tense during traffic. You catch the flicker of impatience during a conversation. And in those moments you have a choice. Not control over the world, but clarity over your response to it. Staying positive does not mean denying difficulty. It means approaching life with a centered awareness that allows joy to coexist with pain, and hope to survive even in challenge. That's the power of mindfulness. It doesn't erase hardship, but it keeps the mind from collapsing under it. And once we learn to hold space for presence, the heart naturally leans toward appreciation. Which raises an important question. How do we learn to fully value what we already have? Practice daily gratitude. If mindfulness allows us to become aware of the present, gratitude teaches us to cherish it. Gratitude is more than a pleasant feeling. It is a deliberate choice, a mental posture that softens the sharp edges of daily life. In Buddhist philosophy, gratitude is understood not merely as thankfulness for material blessings, but as a deep recognition of interdependence. Every breath we take, every meal we consume, every smile we receive is the result of countless unseen contributions. This awareness shifts our focus from what we lack to what already sustains us, building a foundation of emotional well-being that is both humbling and empowering. It's easy to confuse gratitude with polite appreciation, but the kind of gratitude that transforms the mind is active, not passive. It is the conscious act of noticing the sun slipping through the curtains in the morning, the warmth of water during a shower, the small kindness of a stranger. These are not grand moments. They are everyday details that too often go unnoticed. And yet, when we start to see them, something shifts. Our internal narrative softens. Our frustrations lose intensity. The mind no longer feeds solely on what's missing. The Buddhist teachings often return to the idea of non-attachment, not as indifference, but as freedom from clinging. Gratitude complements this idea beautifully. Rather than grasping for what we want, gratitude allows us to rest in what we have. It dissolves the illusion that happiness lies just one achievement away. Instead, it teaches contentment, a state of sufficiency that nourishes the spirit. When we feel we already have enough, the endless chase for more begins to lose its power. It's worth noting that gratitude does not require life to be perfect. In fact, it is often in the most imperfect seasons that gratitude becomes essential. Even amid loss, illness, or disappointment, there are moments, however fleeting, that offer light. Recognizing them is not denial of pain. It is an act of resilience. Gratitude, in this sense, is a quiet rebellion against bitterness. It says, I see the struggle, but I choose to also see the good. And while words of thanks are powerful, actions of appreciation carry deeper weight. A heartfelt note, a gesture of kindness, an extra moment of presence. These are expressions of gratitude made tangible. They reinforce the Buddhist view that the internal and external are interconnected. What we hold in our hearts shapes what we bring into the world. So how does one begin? Slowly, intentionally, by paying attention. Gratitude isn't a switch. It's a practice. But with each moment we choose to notice what is good. We carve out space for peace to take root. And from that space, a gentler way of speaking to ourselves naturally begins to unfold. Speak kindly to yourself. Just as gratitude teaches us to recognize the good around us, speaking kindly to ourselves ensures that we honor the good within. In Buddhist philosophy, the concept of right speech is traditionally associated with how we communicate with others. But its power becomes truly transformative when we apply it inward, toward the constant stream of inner dialogue that shapes our emotional state. Words, even when unspoken, carry weight. The The ones we direct at ourselves can either uplift or diminish, heal or harm. Self-compassion, in this context, becomes a form of internal right speech, a practice of speaking to ourselves not with criticism but with care. That's where affirmations come in, not as hollow cliches, but as intentional reminders of truth. I am learning. I am worthy of compassion. It's okay to struggle. These phrases, when repeated with sincerity, begin to reshape the tone of our inner voice. They don't deny difficulty. They simply refuse to add unnecessary suffering. Reframing self-criticism with curiosity rather than condemnation is another form of kindness. Instead of, I failed again, try asking, what can I learn from this moment? Consider how different life would feel if your default response to mistakes wasn't shame, but inquiry. Instead of recoiling in defeat, you pause, reflect, and grow. That shift, small as it seems, is powerful. It's the difference between stagnation and evolution. Emotional resilience isn't built on flawless performance. It grows through honest reflection, patience, and an enduring sense of inner worth. This is not a call for delusion or blind positivity. Rather, it's an invitation to engage in honest reflection without cruelty. Emotional resilience grows not from denying pain, but from learning how to sit with it gently. When we treat ourselves with kindness, we create a foundation sturdy enough to handle life's inevitable setbacks. In this way, self-compassion becomes a form of strength, not softness but steadiness. Visualize your inner dialogue as a quiet conversation with a dear friend. Would you berate them for every misstep? Or would you remind them of their value, their progress, their humanity? The way we speak to ourselves matters. It sets the tone for how we experience the world. Over time, a compassionate inner voice becomes a stabilizing force. It doesn't erase pain, but it steadies us through it. And from that quiet stability, we can begin to take better care of not just our minds, but the bodies that carry them. Keep the body healthy, a temple for the soul. Just as a gentle inner voice helps steady the mind, a healthy body provides the strength to carry that calm forward. In Buddhist understanding, the body is not simply a vessel. It is a sacred temple. A temporary yet vital form through which the soul experiences life and grows in awareness. Caring for the body, then, is not separate from spiritual practice. It is an extension of it. When the body suffers, the mind follows. Fatigue clouds thought. Chronic discomfort breeds irritability, and neglect dulls our sense of vitality. But when we nurture the body, we invite clarity, energy, and emotional balance. The Buddha taught that wellness begins with awareness, and that awareness must include how we treat our physical selves. Nourishing food, quality rest, and conscious movement are not luxuries. They are forms of respect. Rest is equally sacred. In a culture that idolizes productivity, sleep is often sacrificed. But no spiritual insight comes from a burned-out mind. Deep rest is not a pause in growth. It is part of it. Sleep restores the nervous system, calms emotional turbulence, and prepares us to meet the world with steadiness. A well-rested body is more patient, more present, and more capable of compassion. A tired mind rushes, reacts, and collapses under stress, while a rested one listens, adapts, and breathes. Gentle physical activity, such as walking meditation, yoga, or stretching, connects breath with movement and mind with body. These practices are not about performance or appearance, they are about presence. A slow, mindful walk can be more healing than an intense workout when done with awareness. Through movement we reconnect with the rhythm of life. One monk once described his daily walk around the monastery as a moving prayer, where each step reminded him of both impermanence and peace. This integration of physical and mental wellness forms the foundation for sustainable peace. A healthy body makes it easier to practice mindfulness, to respond rather than react, and to carry compassion outward into relationships and daily challenges. True self-care is not self-centered. It is a quiet declaration that your life, your body, and your spirit are all worthy of respect. And as we continue to honor our whole being, another question arises: how do we move beyond comfort to grow? That leads us into the realm of courage and new beginnings. Embrace change and try new things. If honoring the body builds the foundation of well-being, then learning to embrace change allows us to move with life rather than against it. In Buddhist thought, impermanence, anicca, is not just a philosophical idea. It is the pulse of existence. Everything changes. Seasons shift. Emotions rise and fall. Nothing remains fixed, and that truth can either frighten us or free us. When we resist change, we suffer. But when we lean into it, we learn to adapt, grow, and ultimately thrive. Trying something new doesn't always mean a dramatic life overhaul. It could be as simple as taking a different route on your morning walk, trying a cuisine you've never tasted, or signing up for a class you've always been curious about. These small acts challenge the illusion of routine and stretch the muscle of courage. Every unfamiliar experience, no matter how minor, strengthens your emotional flexibility. You learn to respond rather than react, to observe discomfort without being overwhelmed by it. Personal growth lives in those moments of uncertainty. Think of a person who has always feared public speaking but chooses to share their thoughts at a local community event. The voice may tremble, the hands may shake, but in that moment, something shifts. They realize they are capable of more than their fear led them to believe. That single act of bravery becomes a seed of confidence that ripples into other areas of life. Another example is someone learning to live alone for the first time after decades of partnership. The silence can feel crushing at first, but with time, it becomes spacious. An opportunity to rediscover old interests, form new friendships, or simply enjoy one's own company. What begins in discomfort gradually transforms into strength. Buddhism teaches that clinging to permanence creates suffering. By contrast, openness, willingness to step outside the familiar, is an act of wisdom. When we try new things, we're not chasing novelty. We're deepening our relationship with the unknown, which is where all transformation begins. The emotional resilience we gain doesn't come from perfect outcomes, but from our willingness to begin again. So the question is not whether change will come, it always will. The question is how we meet it. And that leads us to an even deeper inquiry. How do we set goals that honor our pace while still inviting forward motion? Set achievable goals, walking the middle path. If embracing change teaches us to step into the unknown, then setting achievable goals offers a way to move forward with intention. In Buddhism, this approach aligns with the middle path, a principle that avoids extremes and invites balance. It's not about chasing perfection or giving in to passivity. It's about walking steadily, with awareness and care, toward what truly matters. The middle path encourages us to reject both harsh self-discipline and lazy resignation. It recognizes that growth is not sustainable when fueled by burnout or paralysis. Instead, it promotes moderation, honoring our limits while still nurturing progress. This is especially vital when it comes to setting goals. Too much pressure and we risk exhaustion. Too little and we stagnate. True development lies somewhere in between. Setting goals within this framework begins with honesty. Ask yourself, what is within reach today? Not in 5 years, not in some idealized version of life, but now. A goal that is too big may inspire initially but can quickly turn into a source of guilt. One that is too small might feel safe but lacks the energy to move you. The art lies in choosing something meaningful, manageable, and motivating. A practical way to apply this is by breaking larger intentions into smaller, measurable steps. For instance, if you aim to build a meditation practice, don't begin with an hour a day. Start with 5 minutes. Let that small act become a rhythm. Celebrate consistency over intensity. This not only builds momentum, it strengthens trust in yourself. Every time you follow through, no matter how modest the action, you reinforce the belief that you can show up. These small victories matter. They are like stones in a path, leading you forward step by step. Over time, they accumulate into real transformation. The journey becomes less about how fast you get there and more about how present you are along the way. When you celebrate these moments, even quietly, you're practicing mindful success, rooted in self-respect rather than external validation. Following the middle path in goal setting is not about settling for less. It's about choosing a pace that allows you to stay steady, to adjust when needed, and to grow with grace. And as we cultivate this balanced mindset, we begin to see that joy is not found only at the finish line, but in every step we take toward becoming who we're meant to be. Which brings us to a natural question. How do we nurture this joy once it begins to rise? Do what makes you happy and uplifted. If setting balanced goals is how we begin walking the path, then choosing joy is how we remember why we walk at all. Joy, in Buddhist thought, is not a fleeting distraction or a reward to be earned later. It is nourishment for the soul. Cultivating happiness is a form of spiritual care, an act of self-love that affirms our aliveness and reminds us that peace is not only possible, but present. Intentional joy is different from indulgence. It's not about chasing thrills or masking discomfort. It's about discovering what truly uplifts you and choosing it with mindfulness. That might mean spending an afternoon painting without pressure to be good at it. It might be a long walk in nature, where silence becomes a song, or sharing tea with a friend, where conversation flows with ease and presence. These are not luxuries, they are soul-sustaining rituals. Many people postpone happiness, waiting for some milestone or external approval. But Buddhism teaches that the present moment is all we ever truly have. Joy must be planted and harvested here, now. Doing what makes you happy is not selfish. It builds emotional well-being and resilience. Just as a garden needs sunlight, our inner life needs laughter, beauty, and connection. It's worth asking, when do you feel most yourself? What activities make your shoulders relax, your breath deepen, your heart feel light? Identify those moments and give them space. Prioritize them not because they are productive, but because they are healing. In a world that often glorifies busyness and struggle, choosing joy is a radical affirmation of inner worth. Happiness, when chosen intentionally, becomes a spiritual expression. It strengthens compassion, clarifies purpose, and anchors you in the present. It turns daily life into sacred experience. And from that place of joy, a final invitation arises. How can we extend what we've learned inward, outward, to others? The journey